Yeah.
I'll just show you. Oh yeah.
Sure.
Oh, dude, by the way, the video you sent me of what the woman from Joel Spolsky's company talking about the blocks.
Yeah. The blocks.
The blocks.
Dude, that was, yeah. I mean, like, you've been telling me, and like I was already in that space, and then that was just like, I don't know, just like put a bow on it so nicely. No, I just started making this spreadsheet, and it's basically just me pulling stuff out of the Figma and like
whatever. The most organized we'll ever be because of Jordan.
If you guys let me do this, I'll do this all day long. I really enjoy
let
this.
you.
I genuinely enjoy. I
genuinely
enjoy the spreadsheet.
You're hired.
I want to coordinate with Kristen. I love process and writing documents and stuff. Okay.
Wow, that's amazing. I just want to say
John's
that.
part
That's
of
amazing.
this as well.
Yeah.
You're way more organized than we are.
It's like,
I like to make
in
spaghetti.
a visual way. This is amazing.
Yeah. Honestly, it's all stuff I think everyone knows, can talk about, but for some reason, I'm just so much more relaxed when it's in a grid. So that's why I do it. Really, that's why I do
This
it.
looks like a work order.
Well,
yeah,
I mean,
there's a little bit of that.
This is how I did all my features in last job. It's like I always like I always break them out like this, and then generally I'll pull each of these. Usually becomes a keynote or its own like set of or its own spreadsheet, right? And then this is just generally for me. I just keep track of this stuff because I'm not a computer scientist. So I like to like keep reminding myself. This is just kind of, but it's cool.
Yeah,
like the core model.
Yeah, it's cool. Like I had to do this on stuff at Apple just from like to help get my head wrapped around it. And it's always really messy. And I kept working on this, like, man, this is so clean. This is sick. Like the simplicity and the philosophy at the beginning, like it shows itself perfectly. And like when you just scratch on it, that's cool.
This increases the legibility of what's happening in the project too, which is nice for people who are a little bit less technical. I mean, Dave was saying that you kind of bridge the engineering and design thing a bit, Jordan. So this is,
I love that space. I thrive there. I like working with sick artists. I like helping engineers make stuff look sick. So that's cool. That's something. Also, I just I have like a feature list because like I know my brain runs wild and I throw stuff out there and I know it's not the time for it. But if I write it down and flag it as like V2, then I can forget about it. So that's another. So yeah, I'm sure you guys know what I'm talking about there. So that's the biggest reason I could do this. So I can just dump everything and get it out of my head and put it on a timeline in the future.
It's good policy.
Yeah, and I don't really care about the tool. We can do this in anything. It's just the concept of. Like I said, I was just doing this as I went through all the notes and stuff in the Figma file.
Siloed and open collaboration. True. Group journaling.
Yeah. I was gonna say this. I actually want to ask you guys, not you're reading it. Like, does this sound right? That's kind of how it felt. I don't know. Like
definitely like the heartbeat of the thing, like unsiloed and open collaboration. I don't know about the siloed part so much. Like
I was trying to describe that as. I mean, is it?
It's a coming together. Yeah.
So I mean, this kind of goes to this. Is it modular internally or externally? Like going back to the blocks kind of like talk. I mean,
this is where I think that there's that
I don't have an answer, but
we don't either. We're figuring it out.
I was gonna say this is probably what we're trying to figure out. I don't have a clean answer yet, right?
Yeah. So like I think that there's like a sort of public-private like negotiation on a lot of these things. Like what is like inner sanctum, and then what is exposed to the outside, and then what is the pathway to like say for instance, we've talked a lot about this, and you're in an environment, trying to work out something, and the hairier it is, the more vulnerable it is, right? Which means that you probably need a safer space to work that out, and that depends on the group and the trust level in the group and the coherence of the group, all of these kinds of things.
This goes my obsession with Dunbar numbers. I'm obsessed with tools based on Dunbar numbers. Yeah, Dave, thank you for walking into that. Yeah, hell yeah.
And so like, up to a given point, right? Like, you can maintain a pretty high level of cohesion. So the at a certain point though, that there is potentially like something that has cohered that needs to be expressed externally, because you need to like engage in conversation with outside parties or with other, sort of groups and these kinds of things. So like what mediates that move? Like what are the airlocks of like access and all these kinds of things? I think a lot of people are sort of working on this, but this is kind of how we've been thinking about it. Like circles of trust, I guess.
Yeah.
And then how do they overlap permeable
like,
membranes? Yeah.
Yeah. What language use for this?
Go ahead, CJ.
I would say that the technical terms would be like access control, systems, basically. Like it's basically like
it's Unix
access control. It's Unix for the blockchain. Yeah, like basically like it is like kind of like access control, similar like kind of thing. It's just like how do you do that in a user friendly manner? I think in a lot of ways. But I think this is something that probably almost like is outside of Prompty, like it's its own research area probably, because it's like it's a big thing, and I think it actually ties into the high potential for modularity kind of deal too. Is like those things are actually like quite intertwined.
Is this stuff downstream from Prompty, or is Prompty exploring and improving it in itself?
I would say it's one probably like interconnected, but like. So I see you have priority there too. So like how I think about this like technically is like doing everything public is like the easiest thing. And then doing everything like doing something private between two people is probably the next easiest thing. And then doing something private in a group is probably like the hardest thing. But also the one that's like most interesting potentially. So there's like there's kind of like a sequence, or at least like to me that seems like the sequence. Like you can attack it like at the hardest level, but I think like that requires a lot more like time and intentionality to do that, where like it would stop the product from existing to do that for much longer.
We're sort of going with the grain of the technology, right? Like you get all this stuff for free, and then the call and response methodology is like there's prompting in the universe right now, DALL-E and all of the machine learning models and all of these kinds of things, and then like you're effectively doing all this querying and stuff like this, and so as a relationship model, it is in alignment with all the technological landscape, right? And it's also like a prompting in this way. Like I think the general, I don't know, thesis is too strong, but I think it is like a higher fidelity voting kind of thing. Like it's sort of taking the temperature of a group, right? And like sort of bias controls and these kinds of things. So there are go ahead.
You can move voting into a qualitative sort of arena, kind of what we've talked about, versus quantitative. Like you vote like one way and like you signal something, but like what's the quality of like why? Like what are you thinking there? So you can get more information.
So okay, that's really interesting. I want to dig deeper into that. So when you say voting, you're saying voting by participation, or is there actually a voting mechanism I missed?
I guess it's participation.
Okay.
Like I guess in the sense that you're doing a poll, right? And then there are predetermined options in that poll, right? And then you have a group of people and they pick from those predetermined options, and this is a sample set of the preference of a particular group, right? This thing is like a higher order fidelity version of that potentially. Like say you have a Dunbar number group or something larger. Dunbar number seems good for now.
Well, there's many of them. There's like 5, 10, 15, 50, 150, right? So you just, like that's why I think a map like this makes a lot of sense to me, right? That because of the implementation, that's what I was saying, like unstyle, like implementation is allowing a lot more of this. Am I wrong? Like the implementation is part of like the philosophy of the project is intertwined with what the implementation is providing. Right?
I think that like the printing press shows up as a technology, and then the pamphlet is the first invention on the printing press, right? Pre that, scribes aren't going to sit and make pamphlets; it's too expensive. right? So maybe
It's
there's
a new
an
artifact
equivalency
as a
here.
result of new tech. That's perfect. Yeah, that's what.
Yeah.
Okay, that's. I think I was circling that, Dave, and you just like, yeah, that's. I got you now. So
Yeah,
it's not really part of the jobs be done. It's more just like it's the conditions in which the product is being made. It's like kind of CJ was saying, it's a bigger, wider thing than maybe you just Prompty or.
Yeah, totally.
Okay, got it.
We have like I mean, CJ is definitely working in that sort of broader sphere.
We can put that in a different spreadsheet then, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I can make a tab for it actually.
There you go.
Should we track it? What do you want to start tracking?
Rlog is where we're at here. So
Rlog. Yeah, just real quickly, the participation.
Good.
The participation bit that you brought up, Jordan, we've talked about this. Like, so there's proof of attendance protocol where were you part of this conversation, POAPs, where you get a little token. It looks like a visual token for showing up. And this could be another version of that, but it's proof of participation instead of attendance. Like you're actually showing up and if you respond to the promptee potentially afterwards about like, what was your experience being here? You are like demonstrating or sharing something from being there. So it's proof of participation. It's not necessarily how we're thinking about this all the time, but that's one angle of thinking.
That's a feature though, right? Like that you're tracking participation and awarding.
Yeah, you could use it that way. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, you're getting it for free if it's minted. So like effectively you have a wallet and you have somebody associated with that wallet and then they participated in the thing. And then so you have the ledger is holding on to it. So you could go back and be like, all the people who did this thing here,
right.
You get this retroactive potential for like reward and all these things. This is where
and that's
yeah, go ahead.
That's where it's also kind of like a form of group journaling or like the feature aspect of it. It could be like a magazine. I mean, this is way like fast forwarding, because if you got a bunch of people to respond to a prompt, like we did this with early days in Ponder, and people responding to prompts, and we pulled together those prompts over a 2-week period of time and packaged it into a zine. So the like award there was you just got published in a little micro zine.
I don't know.
Yeah, so
that's more advanced because we're getting into publishing then.
Yeah, I agree.
Packaging.
Yeah, but if we have the on-ramps and then we're sitting on all this stuff, it'll want to cohere into forms that are consumptive or, distributable or all these kinds of things. So what do those look like? Are those, queries basically, or, there's a bunch of things here. Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, so I think you're describing the perfect line between like kind of what we were doing last week, and that is getting the MVP out and then staging what the next sequence of features are, which is 100% what I was hoping we'd talk about today, because I love doing this. I love talking feature lists. So that's sick. This is awesome. So okay, can I actually go back a little bit, because one thing I'm going to ask you guys, you went over it, and that is authentication and linking or connecting wallets are the same thing. We don't have a separate authentication. The wallet does that, correct?
Yeah.
All identities managed through that. Okay, perfect.
Yep.
Cool. So then that's also how all the participation, like Chris already said, it's all handled by a system outside of Prompty, which is cool. That's cool. Okay. Just connecting dots in my head.
That's the blockchain for you.
Yeah, right.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Or at least Ethereum. Adjacent, Ethereum adjacent.
Cool.
Yeah, and then like part of this is like, I think this is a primitive. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say, a lot of the stuff you're talking about was, it was kind of the theme I saw in the Figma, and it's like, also, it's not just making this and getting out there. It's being conscious and learning from the process, like the group, right?
Yeah.
How would you capture? Like, how would you like? I almost want to capture that as, like, do we want to say, like, do you want to generate, like, is there a side to this product or this tool that is generating like data and reports for you and us to like look at and analyze and stuff like that? Like, is there an analytics component to this that we need to like actually think about? I don't know. Is that a dumb question?
Not a dumb question. I'm curious what other people think. My instinct is no, and what I not immediately, and what I actually turn to is features about how to program when to send the prompts, because that would then translate into potentially analytics on the back end, like how frequently are you sending prompts at what times of day, and like how often are people responding to them, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So it's like so it's like, huh?
Because it's a process oriented tool, or can be used like in, like you were saying, like to tap into some of the qualitative experience of people throughout a process. This is where the scheduling mentality comes in, like schedule it in the future or schedule it reoccurring for a set period of time. Dave and I were talking about this the other day. It's a
multi-part series, like all these things. Yeah, there's a whole bunch of these like sort of patterns.
I don't know why it came up.
Oh my gosh, you could have a whole Prompty book.
Yeah.
Also,
the one thing we don't want it to be though is like stand-ups or something like that, where it's like the same thing every day forever, or every Wednesday, because then it loses its salience and it becomes there's this thing where it's like, well, I'm obligated to do it, I have to do it, and we don't. So that's all social though, like how you program the thing.
That's what I'm saying, Kristen. At some level, someone's going to use a tool to be boring. They're just a boring person, right? Like,
but if we can afford the user the ability to not be boring, then that's better.
And actually, I still think the minimum count's kind of a sick innovation. I know it's subtle, but it's a behavioral tweak that I'm actually really fascinated by. So I think I like the direction you're going in.
Yeah, so it's basically like what are the and I don't know, we've talked about some of this stuff, and I have like purposefully tried to narrow the field on it to try and hopefully get the thing into the world. But like the range of things that you can do with a prompting system are bonkers. Like you can add media to all of this stuff, right? And then there are secondary forms, like once you have the stuff in system, that like we call it folding. Basically, like you have a bunch of material. So in the first case, in the analytical set, there is the qualitative analysis of like a prompt session. So say it's up for 24 hours, it goes out to 100 people, you're taking the temperature of a community. There is some level of analysis that needs to be done, and then some kind of packaging that goes back into the community for something, right? So there's a whole layer of things that show up once the initial like the sort of the easy stuff of collecting the thing is done.
I think I started going that, Dave. It's almost like you could have prompts, like there could be generative prompts, a prompt that was generated from a bunch of prompts that were made, right? Like
yes,
the prompt could be the delivery vehicle for the analytics based on itself.
Yes. Yeah, I think so. So like, because that one is like, there are probably a set of tools in there that are refocuses, like, like refinements, like like once you have, this is where like, I'm not an analyst. I'm sure that there's like a whole set of like linguistics there on like tooling that once you have like a body of information that you can sort of poke at it and do like multi-perspectival like analysis on. So and those are going to differ depending on the type of thing you want to do, because in one sense you could do a call and response game with this thing, right? Where like things are going out in a group, you create a gallery together, right? And then from that gallery you riff on something there, like you pick some and like bounce off of them, like, or you like you're writing a story together, or like there's all of these sort of narrative or sort of poetical kind of things that are less analytical.
Can I get a few of those from you? Like, I think that's really, really cool. And I was kind of picturing it, but I think you're describing way better. Like what are the, like, I saw it mentioned there, it's almost like a game, but it's also like, it doesn't have to, I guess. Can you real quick, just give me like 2 or 3 of those, like like sessions that have like that are different kind of themes or like.
Okay, so like
we did a session. Like, didn't we do a session where we had a meeting? You're like, hey, how'd the session go over and take notes? And we went like,
yeah.
Okay, so that's like a that's like a workflow that would be like what do you call it when you look back on something?
It's a
retro. Yeah,
retro. Yeah, it's a retro, and then this is where there are like, I believe, little modular game utilities in here, and the one that we keep coming back to is black boxing, right? And like Prompty is like using the black box technique, basically where like everybody tosses in their answers into a black box, and then they don't get to see them until some like requirement is met, right? That can be you participated, so you give me an answer, I'll give you all the rest of the answers, right? Like in the black box's first person perspective. Or it can be all answers go into a black box, but they are open together as a group, right? And then they are reflected on synchronously, right? Or any number of other like circumstances based on whatever, like, yeah.
This sounds like there's like a deep dive here too about how that game can be expressed. That's super interesting. I don't know if it's probably not worth our time right now, or I don't know, you tell me, but that seems like,
there's a lot of rabbit holes on this thing.
Yeah,
like
I want to track that as yeah, I'm just gonna say like there's a lot here. Cool, that's great, dude. That's what okay.
Where Prompty is like the surface area of the iceberg.
Yeah,
like,
well, Prompty it's the primitive, and then you're building games around it, and like it's just what the rules you're using with this component, right?
Yeah, and I think that there are a bunch of like sort of other primitives. I don't have like a mental model for what those kinds of things are, but in the like CJ has been poking around a lot of the like material nature of the blockchain, and in our conversation these things start to bubble up. But yeah, like in the game sense, you like think about it in terms of like you're trying to get media across like a broad swath of people, like everybody draw a sheep, right? Like the whatchamacallit, like Mechanical Turk style thing, only you have like talented artists or something like this. Like John is doing a version of this right now called Daily Canvas that's based on the Exquisite Land like tooling and system or whatever, where effectively there's a prompt and then everybody could respond to a prompt, and then there's a daily gallery of all the responses of the prompt, this kind of thing. I think that there are probably a couple like second or third order ideas in there that like you have maybe somebody who's conducting, or you start like a meme like conversation, and then the thing starts building itself based on like you can have a bunch of touch point, audio, video, like all of these kinds of things. Then all of that media is remixable in some way, right? Like what are you making out of it? This is where
that's the other components you're talking about, like what are those remixing of
lore management then, right? Like this is and you've got a whole kind of like, how do you search it, how do you look for it, how does it get marked up, what is the data structure, like what are the relational qualities and what do they give you, like how do you query these things, how do you do this as a group, like because all of these are still very much like one to many. But like so anyways, it spirals pretty quickly.
Yeah. And so would a good example of where you're going with this be? Like it seems like, just off the top of my head, like obviously maybe add media, I mean obviously be a v2 whatever, but it seems like add media to prompt, just adding SVG seems kind of right, because isn't there a bunch of SVG on blockchain stuff you have sitting around? Someone did.
Could do. Like,
that's pretty cool.
There's a bunch of these things. I mean, and then
because I mean, like in turn, like adding media prompt feels very logical, right? Like once you get the gameplay going, it's like adding media.
This is where I want to run us into the stress of it. Like, fuck, I want to add a picture.
Right. Wait till find the urges that emerge, right? As we get into like find when we want to just
it'll just tell us. Like that's
like
how
that.
I like to bubble up features these days. Like necessity yells at you, and then you don't have, that's your user research. Like everybody is just like, oh man, like, or they'll start hacking it, right? And like, you know, putting ASCII pictures in there or something, and like, who knows, right?
Yeah, it'll tell you. Yeah, good point.
Yeah, because we're so early in when you're working with primitives like this, like there is so much surface area you can grab. So like a big part of the process of getting this into people's hands is designing experiments so that interesting like outcomes can come out. So I think that's a big part of, once we,
that's the V1, right? Is what's the minimum need for to get the experiment to find to get more. I think a lot of these are intuitive, but I think you're right. It's like we know we want to get to these, but you need to get this so we be clear. So those make I got you.
Yeah, and so here's the range of within that MVP. Like we can do it as a small group, right? You could also put a Prompty on Twitter and have everybody. It's a sort of social media symbiote in that sense, because like it generates a URL, and then you can link that URL up, and it's like, here's a prompt going out to everybody. It has X amount of time, and then like your social media audience could answer that. You could tie it into a newsletter. Any sort of surface could have one of these things, and then you're effectively in potentially a deeper conversation with those people because it's longer form, and the other people can see like the like the deeper responses from a group of people that are in a social network that may be only tied together by tweets, which are small little bad things. So like
chaotic little things.
I don't know how if it's work. Is
that V1?
Yeah.
Are you talking V1 for that?
You could, if you have a URL, you can put one of these things up.
Okay, well, let me rephrase that. Do you want to do that for V1? Is that the experiment you want to run? I'm just asking. I'm not trying to steer you at all. I'm just literally asking what is the right experiment to like? I'm just like, I don't know.
Maybe I think there are a few experiments.
It's all very juicy. It's all extreme. Interesting stuff.
This one, it could be that I'm just using this as a modeling for the actual like surface areas. It is possible to use it anyway. So if you drop it in Discord, or you drop it in email, or you drop it in a newsletter, or you drop it in Twitter, the thing is the same everywhere. So like, you know, who do we give it to, and who has access to it? Anybody with a wallet, right? Like,
your point is it's not even a decision. It's just the nature of how it's built.
It's open. Yeah. So like, I think the problem we run into very quickly is that like we have one public listing for all prompties, which is a mess. So like, you very quickly run into, we've created an open network, and like, how do you find anything? And like, which is fine. Like you can have no listing at all. You just hand out individual URLs, and they go just to the prompt page, and you're good to go. So yeah.
No, there's a lot of like, I think there's a lot of ways to deal with that. But how would you describe that problem? That's really interesting though.
Namespace.
Open
channel.
Yeah. It's like
open network toxicity.
Is it like segmented socially, or just like, how do you just, I don't know, flat list
social
of
segmentation
prompts, maybe a problem? Yeah. So segmentation.
So like, this is where fail cases, we're sort of, I don't think that there's enough attention, and it doesn't have a virality
problem yet. Yeah.
That like, I don't know. And if we notice, I don't think it's like,
I just want to track that. I think it's. I don't think it gets
for sure,
like you're saying, but I just want to get that one down, so I don't forget it.
Yeah. So there's some like very like, the second that you start using it, and then you can feel into other people using it, like there's a bunch of like disaster cases that like you can feel into. but yeah, this is where I want to test demand and like usefulness at all. Kristen has a thesis that like, I think that basically there is good prompting and like not so good prompting. Like, and the quality of understanding how to engage with people in general is going to produce better and worse results. So people who have like a more of an affinity, it's the same thing as the Mid-Journey thing, all the GPT-3 stuff. Like if you have that concept that there is a linguistic way of prompting certain systems, like your prompts are going to come back a lot better. So there's probably a learning curve here on like getting engagement and prompts and stuff like that. And I don't think it superpowers like people who don't have that to like go make crazy shit. So
yeah, that goes back to the media, right? It's like this is the right way to stage it, but you're right. Like at some point, for people to express themselves, they are going to have to be able to do different things because, like you say, not everyone is eloquent.
No, and not everybody can query well. So
yeah.
and can understand like how to tap into the people that they're trying to understand from. Like we spend a little bit of time trying to frame prompts when we're doing them ourselves, right? Like how are we getting at what we're trying to get at? So defining what you're trying to express is a big part of this. How that plays out, because there's probably some methodology there, and then there's probably some like, you know, second, third order like helpers and these kinds of things. In the meantime, it's probably just think about it like this, like, you know, OpenAI has all of these things like popping up while they're rendering, right? Like use this kind of thing and try this kind of thing. And then the way that Mid-Journey solves this is like open system, go look at what other people are doing, copy that, right? So yeah, I think we're going to run into similar kinds of, yeah.
That's super interesting. I've never really thought very deeply about like I think I had a very kind of like utilitarian view where it's like, oh well, if the content's interesting, people engage, but it's actually totally not true at all. I mean, that's how you frame it is huge, and I think that's super interesting. Like there probably is some extremely nuanced but really meaningful ways to make them more effective. Like instead of saying what did you think, it's like how did you feel, right? Like just that kind of like. Okay, yeah, man. All right, yeah. Damn.
Yeah, so there's
a lot. There's way more than I realized. Yeah, no, totally.
There's a skill level to this that is like probably equivalent to what a good interviewer is, right? And like Kristen has done a fair amount of interviewing, right? As a, you know, this is the researcher and these kinds of things, like ask better questions, get better data kind of things.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's social priming and these kinds of things, but generally the tools don't exist at all. So like having the utility there and the ability to like, what does it unlock? So yeah, anyways, I've sort of kept a lot of this.
Market themselves? I don't know. They learn to be I think it's a nice
prompters.
I don't know. That's really cool. There's something about like it's a contained thing, but it's a small space for you to practice your like human skills in a way.
Mm-hmm.
It's relational.
Yeah, it's cool. Yeah.
And right. Like community managers will probably find this to be a good tool to better understand the community they're working with, is one of our guesses.
Is a community owner another type of a separate user than a normal?
A community manager type, yeah.
But then probably they would, well, like in the sense that there's only one user type right now, but I could very much see a community manager having some like greater level of insight or ability to write prompts than the average responder.
Cool. Yeah. Extra functionality.
So yeah, activated some sort of feature that
Wait, what was that?
Looks at my camera and then responds with the corresponding emoji of my hand gesture. I think, yeah, it works. That's so great.
Wait, where's that showing up?
I don't know if it's showing up on my screen. Maybe, do you guys see
I don't see it.
No. No, I see it now. Yeah, I see it now.
Yeah, or if I do this one, I think there's like a warm-up method, and then it just, how cool. This is buried in the
Everybody have that?
No, I had to, it has a checkbox in the settings somewhere.
Oh, just keep trying.
It took a second. I had to like refresh it.
Okay.
Yeah, so I don't know. I mean, this is all like in the sort of promptism, participatory media, community tools, relational tools. Like, yeah, it's Prompty sort of is a thing where you don't need to know any of that stuff, and you come and hopefully like it works, but we'll see.
So, is there anything else you want to throw in here that I should just have in the back of my head as I'm?
No, I think like
I want it all. I want everything I got in there.
I think this is like
right now that I can handle.
This is a good seed. There's like
Okay,
a whole nother discussion about Rlog, which like,
is that right?
It's like, yeah.
Yep.
Okay, cool.
Which is publishing and like sort of like group journaling in yeah, like group media, group wiki, group, you know, like comms, this kind of thing.
Yeah, I'd just like to kind of point out, like, Prompty is an Rlog module.
Yes.
Just to like
Yep.
kind of put a pin on how that kind of maybe works, or can be an Rlog module, I guess.
I think that's probably the best way of describing, like, it's a component.
It can it can exist independently, but they can also coexist.
Prompty is bucket, Rlog is string, like collections versus feeds. There's some parallels there, but I very much see like Rlog be sort of your consistent output. Like, I'm just like typing into my Rlog here, but then some of those things can make it into maybe become Prompty prompts, and some of those things could become Prompty responses, because the underlying data protocol is the same really for all this stuff.
Yeah, I guess I see Rlog slightly differently in terms of like, it's more like a protocol for anything to exist on top of it. It doesn't have like a specific instantiation or implementation necessarily. Like many instantiations of it, like a stream is something that is possible on Rlog. A blog, like formal writing, is also possible. Hypermedia and hyper objects are also possible. And Prompty is one hypermedia object that is Rlog compatible.
Yeah,
I guess is like how I think about it.
It's like a relational interface, right? Like, it's got like a set of social conditions that are a process that people can engage in that create artifacts within like an Rlog system. And then anything that, it's like the block stuff, right? Like, if it's a block within this block protocol, then like different clients can show it, and you know, they sort of stick together somehow, right? Which allows for like effectively, like, just, my hope is deeper comms, like comms at depth, like, because we have Twitter, which gives you like, it's Tweety, that thing. Like, can we have something that's tooling that is suitable to longer form conversation? Maybe you know, moving from synchronous to asynchronous, maybe doing research over a long period of time, like having a bunch of people in like a data environment, like, and there are different forms of moving through that data environment, but they're cross compatible, like this kind of thing. So
this is where the concept of a hyper object comes in. If you're working on something or trying to explore something that is bigger than any one person can hold, if everyone's contributing, you can kind of find the shape of the thing together, is like that kind of depth. Like, there's a increased complexity of information that can be explored in this type of product.
Yeah, so the spreadsheet that you were just filling out is something that we were just working on together, right? But you were driving it. Then that drops into an Rlog instance, whatever you call it. Like, it's like the buzzard Rlog thingy. and
it's
then,
already in the mush. It's just already it's in the okay. Yeah.
And in like, and here's the sci-fi sense. It's connected to this video. And the metadata that's like, all of us have logged in. And so we were all there. And, you know, then maybe Kristen's making notes and John's making notes. And I'm waving my arms.
CJ in a week is like, I'm doing something on Rlog. He can extract the chunks from this that were related to it because of the metadata. And it's all the same mush. And
it's grokkable.
Yes.
And so like, if
and
he
you
made
can
a
see
note
the relationships
time
and explore
code,
them.
Yeah, exactly.
Dude, what the hell? Is this a file system? What the hell is it? I don't even know what to call that.
It's something like that. I would say like how I think about it from the technology sense is, well, I think about it kind of
anti-database. I don't know.
It's like thinking in terms of graphs from the ground up, as opposed to like hacking graphs into SQL databases and like making everything like a hierarchical system, instead of everything is like generally more flat, and you can form hierarchy out of the flat system if you choose to do so. But everything is more just like related with each other in some way or another. And then how you determine the relationship hierarchy is up to you, because it can actually most of the time be bidirectional.
It's anarcho-syndicalism software.
Basically. I mean, emergent hierarchies from a network. Yeah, right. This is, I mean, this is the world we're living in. So like
it's take Urbit and turn it upside down.
Yeah.
Interesting.
In a way.
Kind of, yeah. I mean, I was very inspired by Urbit in like 2018. Like when I first read about it, I was like, whoa, this is crazy. And then I was like, they're building this like the most esoteric way ever. But like,
I thought the star as a joke. Yeah, I thought the star as a joke, because I'm like, this is fucking fake. And then it was kind of real. And I'm like, yeah, it kind of sucks a little bit, but it's fascinating.
Kind of sus, for sure.
Yeah. And then I'm like, oh, I'm gonna read this Curtis Yarvin guy, and I like want to fucking knock that dude's teeth out. But
as far as I know, he's basically stepped away though at this point. I think.
No. And the guy who's running it, Paul Galen, whatever guy, he like emails like he'll just be like, hey, just checking in. Like he's pretty cool. He's like some surfer, bro. He seems fine. Yeah, but. Man, what a weird ride. I'm like, this technology looks like a joke. I went to like one of the smartest engineers I knew at Apple, and he's like, this is the closest I've been to not being able to tell if someone's trolling me or inventing something totally new. Like I literally don't have to tell you. I was like, oh shit, I'm gonna buy one. Like, whatever, but that's hilarious.
I mean, I think that there's like an interesting community popping up around it. There are people playing in these kinds of things. Like there's
I love
it's an alternate like computing environment. Like it's cool.
Yep.
Like,
we need clean slate ambitions like that. Totally. I love the spirit of it. Yeah. I'm not that.
Yeah, I think that I mean, we're effectively playing in Ethereum for now, right? Like who knows where this goes, but like there is a going with the grain of the thing, right? Like it's kind of working like this. The way that Ethereum emerged is this sort of like, you know, you got a white paper and then people collectively coming together and like sort of proposing things, right? There is a system of operation within the thing, or lots of them, but they tend towards a certain type of thing, which is like clumping up together and trying to think together and then outputting something from that within a media environment that like supports it. So like in this case, like, okay, so there are some untapped patterns here that look like communications and publishing, right? And like the better those things are, the better people can work together, which means that, and where is this useful? Everywhere, absolutely everywhere. So like across every domain, in every place. So it's like, it's as far as things to work on, it's about as leveraged as you get. So it's pretty meaningful. And if it works well, like then, you know, ideally, right? And this is very much ideally, people come together and do things that they couldn't have done otherwise in ways that are healthy and great. There's the downside case. The other side of this is also true.
Always.
Like people come together and do terrible things and blah, blah, blah. But
they're doing it anyway.
People will do terrible shit.
We couldn't possibly make it worse.
It's true. So we could make it more neutraler. So I don't know. So there is like some I guess like higher purpose of this thing that like, you know, absolutely. Better comms, better people, right? Like the clearer comms, like the higher quality of your communication environments, the higher quality of your relationships, and the better your relationships, the better your society, right? So like this is the you know.
Yeah, it's attempting to use the tools of atomization to bring us back together.
Could be, yeah. I mean, I think that in some senses that's the case. Like you're hacking parasites for some other purpose, right? Yeah. Like in the case of the symbiote model or whatever with Prompty, is there and this is completely speculative. I have no idea if this works, but I like the pattern of that thing, right? You create something that can piggyback on an existing network and then get a result that adds depth to it, right? And then the depth is like, hey, maybe that's more fun. So you get maybe a migration pattern this way. Right. Yeah.
We're not trying to compete with Twitter, but there are potentially groups of people that are on Twitter right now that can use this and add and not feel like they're being pulled away from Twitter. They're just getting more depth to their conversation.
Right. Yeah. It does one of the jobs Twitter is trying to do in a shitty way and does it in a much better way. Yeah. Definitely see that.
And if this thing, I mean, Twitter might build this too, right? But like they're going to build the version of it that's like walled garden and all these other kinds of things, right?
Right. They're stuck with their business models. We are not, which is the asymmetrical.
Because we don't have one.
I started table of business models, and I'm like, not right now.
So this comes back to like, community managers and doing these experiments and stuff like this. Is there like a sane, sensible, decent tool set that that works on a more open protocol, but is the experience is the focus of the product, right? So you could have many versions of this kind of thing. If it's workable and it makes sense, there should be many kinds of versions. I mean, this is Twitter early days, all these kinds of things. Then you're competing based on what your particular instantiation does for you, right? And in a lot of cases, most people can't build these things, right? So there is something that I mean, we want to dog food this thing, right? Mm-hmm. And so if we're making it for ourselves and it's working, and potentially we are consulting with it and building it for other communities, then we are going to have like a sort of front seat advantage on creating an experience that is very useful to a lot of people. That is high value, which means that asking for a market trade on that is, you can make a lot of money doing this kind of thing. Like it can self-support and then potentially fund some of the research or a lot of the research that's going into these kinds of things. But there's probably 10 other better ideas. So, yeah.
So I guess now that I made you guys spend the whole hour explaining everything. So I guess I'm curious because I'm curious is like what are next steps? Like obviously you're still like doing some amount of like it works, right? Like what is the
I mean, at this point,
is it just we're experimenting, like literally starting to get into experiments with it? Is that what?
Yeah, and there's like little usability stuff that we need to polish off. We need to get it on mainnet, like probably. I don't know, John and CJ, you guys can answer this stuff more.
I have no idea. John probably knows.
John, you can answer this stuff more.
Short. There's like a laundry list of little usability things, like the session we had last time where we just looked at the slider. Honestly, there's not much left on that front. Yeah. The deploying, I mean, that's kind of up to us. If we're bringing it to a bunch of people that already have Bring to be testy, then I don't see the importance of pushing to mainnet. But if we want it to really just exist as a thing that it's not going to be redeployed for a long time, then that kind of makes sense. And I think that's not a big lift. And then there's a little bit, I think, around like interfacing with the contract on Prompty, like as in the React side, just catching errors and stuff. If there's stuff there that we don't expect to come back, catching those, handling them gracefully, and showing the user what's going wrong. Again, less importance to do that if we're bringing it to people that are like already with a high degree of context on how blockchain things work, because they're going to be fine with like some transaction taking 50 seconds instead of 20. Like that won't freak them out. I think that stuff matters a little more when we really bring it to people who like don't have exposure to Web3 at all.
Yeah, there's some patterns here too. Yeah, the thing works currently. Then it's just how you're presenting it, like how you're getting it in people's hands. We have like the first test that we were talking about doing is like presenting it at dev demos and then like sort of creating a Prompty, like a prompt there, having people like respond to it, having them go through the process and then just sort of reflect on, and they're pretty technically oriented. So like, you know,
they'd be fine with
they're gonna bash on it.
Things.
Yeah, right.
So,
They probably give really helpful feedback too. They know what feedback you'd want to.
Yeah. So that one we have sitting there whenever. I mean, when's the next dev demo? A week or so?
Next Wednesday.
A week from Wednesday. Yep.
So we could definitely do that. And then we're just sort of trying to find other people. Like I mean, a lot of the features that are like first order and obvious are gonna show up there. Like, you know, like I want my own of these. Like this one is gonna show up immediately. Like I would like to be able to do this as a group without having everybody else see my people's answers, right? So like this is gonna, but all of that stuff will sort of show up. But yeah.
So like you were saying, you know, just actually real world use will help drive and point us towards what the next stuff to be done is. And then and you're saying you think that next thing is probably the def demo day stuff. Getting to a state that you guys feel it can be banged on by the demo day. I definitely
think that's a good target. With sitting there, we don't have to do anything else other than like sort of plan to demo it.
Yeah, and it's like, I don't know. Maybe again, I feel like I'm either asking you stuff you guys already like completely figured out or stuff you know you haven't. But
we're warming this thing back up. So
okay,
like,
okay, cool.
This is extremely helpful.
Okay, good. I don't want to waste your guys' time. Okay, good.
You're not like if you want to play in this thing, you need to know how it works, and I would like you playing in this thing. So this is all extremely useful. We also want to get into a cadence with it. So like we're weekly kind of. It's Prompty time, right? Like so that we're keeping it uploaded in the group brain so that we can keep moving on it. Because we dumped it out over the past few weeks, and there's a lot of like building it back up and trying to understand where we are and all this other kind of thing. So
it's also nice to see how you work, Jordan.
Oh
because how like different people are bringing different skill sets to the table. So and like you're like, I'm excited. I got a bunch of energy. I did this. And we're like, okay, he does that. Like now everyone, like we know that, which is nice.
Dude,
like,
I hesitate to project like my process onto people, but like there's just certain things that just make me feel really nice. And one of them is the spreadsheet. So I just start there. I just start there. Yeah, cool. No, I appreciate it. Thank you. So Dave, going back to what you're saying about like now it's just like, getting it out there and stuff. It's like, so as we went through it all, I'm realizing like the technology obviously works. The design knows what it needs to do. It's clearly like it's big enough, it's wide enough, it has the impact. Like it could like go hog wild. The part that I'm actually kind of most hung up on is not hung up on, but I think the most potential and kind of like the hardest kind of thing to get into is like kind of Kristen's saying is like, how do you inspire people to get into good flows on this, right? Like, and so going to the def demo days, like I don't know, like what have you guys thought about what that looks like? Is it literally just it's a web page, check it out, or is it like are you going to have something kind of going? I don't know. I'm curious because that is like I don't know. Now that's the problem I'm latching onto is like okay, I'm totally sold on the tech. I'm told the UI like I like it. I love the way like the limitations and then the rules. And now I'm just like, man, okay, so how do we get people really flowing, right?
Yeah. And I think we talked a little bit about how the demo could go, and we figured we'd brush up before we did the demo. So I think how we demo and how we engage people in using Prompty will influence their thinking on it. So we can spend some time pondering that one.
I think you said it. It's like if you can inspire them, they can inspire each other and it takes off like wildfire. Oh, cool! Look at that. You are way ahead of me. Oh, dude, I should have done this in Notion. Notion's way better than spreadsheet. Okay, that's what I'm gonna do after this. Because I love Notion. I need an excuse to use it. Now I have it.
Very agnostic.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think another like focused chat about the demo would be great, but it would be very much like if we have people's attention, I think better than just showing them things, it's asking them things and getting like feedback back. And that Def is good at that. But particularly if we give them something they could interact with, which is like have an experience with Prompty, put information into there, also have like qualitative feedback about what that was like, and then just record this whole thing for ourselves as notes and stuff. So in other words, I think there's a lot of potential here to sort of scaffold this to get the sort of responses and feedback that we're looking for. We don't have anything settled there yet.
Yeah, and I don't know. Do you guys have any, like, I've only done one of these, and it was awesome. But what do you guys learned? I'm assuming you've been playing with this the whole time. Like, what are some examples of where, like, have you guys any major?
Oh, I was just gonna say, I feel like at least I haven't really played with the actual app in a while.
Me neither.
Okay.
Yeah, I feel like we have just been emulating it in Discord rather than using the app itself. So I think we probably should do like 1 or 2 or 3, maybe from a clean slate in the app, and see where we run into issues from doing like full cycles before we actually demo it. And like maybe in terms of like, I don't know, we can probably do some of them in public or some of them in private in terms of like gearing ourselves up for the dev demo itself, is like dog fooding it in that way too, is like what are some of the aspects that we want to talk with the dev community about, or like whatever, like some of the questions that we have written down in Notion, maybe we can even like use some of those in Prompty itself.
Totally. Yeah, I think we should come up with a few forms. So we've done like reflect on X, like, an event, like if we were to do this, like reflect on what we learned from Jordan's process, right? Whatever it is, right? And that, or we can do, here's a piece of media, we've done this one, that one produced interesting results. Like, what do you think about it? And you put that in a black box and you don't see what other people think about it. And then like you get very interesting perspectives this way. And then I don't know, another form that we can come up with, something like this. And then we have a few of them that we can dog food. We're going to run into whatever frictions we'll run into. Because I think the UI probably isn't as clear as it needs. I mean, obviously it needs a million iterations. Once you're living in it, like having to use it, like a lot of the stuff will start to show up as like, that's annoying, we don't need that crap. Or vice versa, we need more.
I don't want to make the product boring, but I kind of feel like this could be pretty killer as bug tracking, and like there's something about like getting people to like bug tracking on like software that's really hard, and like I don't know why I was thinking about, we should use Prompty to build Prompty. I'm like, what would that look like? It's like tracking feature, like, you know what I mean? I started like,
I was very much sort of going through the same, where there's like a sort of a static Prompty that's like, what is your experience of Prompty? Like, and it could be good or bad, and then you just like, but I like the idea of like sort of collecting feedback through it about it, which natural form.
Yeah, that's what I was going.
I used to do this all the time with publishing things. I'm like, this feels like crap, and then when I hit this button, it doesn't work, and then I publish the thing, and then we have a note in the system that's that. But yeah, like, are you thinking like
that's
that,
actually
or
so
like
great? Oh, sorry, I'm just like, oh man, this is amazing, because like it actually works well this way in a way as well. Like you can make an infinite prompt basically. It's just not exposed in UI. So we can basically like hack it, make an infinite prompt, stick that at the top of the UI, or like somewhere in the UI, like a question mark, or like this sucks button, like just type what sucks, and it just goes.
If you shake your phone, like Google Maps, it'll be like, what's wrong?
Yeah.
Okay.
The help prompt is what sucks ? And then
exactly.
you answer the prompt. So is that because we don't have infinite, we don't have multiple answers from the same wallet. I mean, we could obviously set up whatever we want, but yeah, I don't know if that's contractual, like how we did all that stuff.
No, good point, Dave. Can there be non-human entities on this thing, or did everything have, since that's tied to a wallet? Okay, so I'll go for it.
Well, I guess as long as it's tied to a wallet, it human, right? In terms of like, you could get like an AI to be responding through a wallet to interact with the system.
Got it. So future facing, I think that proof of humanity things are probably going to be a double check on certain wallets, and then you can have a lock on only human beings can respond to this prompt. blah, 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 all these kinds of things. Yeah.
Because it's on each, you're not going to get spammed though. So it's not really that big a deal, right? Is someone going to spend money to spam? Does that happen?
Limited enough.
Yeah.
Like, I just feel like that was
spam a lot of times.
Not early days, probably.
No. This is again one of these things that
it's
like
the price. Spam is
I mean, also the L2 stuff is going to be super cheap. So like, I don't know.
Okay, so
it's not that much to spam.
That's not a safe assumption for me to make. That the cost of ETH does not create a barrier to getting spam. Okay,
it's not going to be cost prohibitive, because ideally we get this thing to be effectively free. Like as far as that kind of thing is concerned. So
really? It's not enough gas to be meaningful or whatever.
I don't think. I mean, you guys can.
It's gonna like cost fractions of cents, probably realistically to use.
I think Gordon Randa wrote that like if a system can support spam, then it's probably an open system. Yeah, it's not being centralized. So if that is the case, then like that's a good sign in some sense of a healthy open ecology. But then we'll need some sort of garden fences to keep shit out also.
How do you prevent the weeds from popping up in the system?
There's going to be some, I hope, agreed upon like wallet quality thing, like or many of them, and then if that's part of the open system architecture, we'll tag into that thing, or in the meantime we'll make our own or whatever. This is also the client-based thing, right? So like if the protocol can accept all kinds of things, your experience based, like how much garbage are you getting, and then what is the nature of the enclosure of the experience that you're having on an open system. So, this is a quality of life improvement that has value that can be sold. Plus, we're going to be using it ideally, so we want to keep the thing from not being a nightmare. Yeah, but I who knows? Like,
I think these are like far down problems.
Yeah. I think we're like, many iterations away from that being a problem. Yeah, we'll get our first spam one day. Like, ooh, look at that.
We'll unbox it.
Somebody figured it out. Yeah. And then I don't know. Like, if there are areas for bots and these kinds of things, I'm like, it's cool. Like, what are you going to do with it? Like, what? Yeah. So I don't know. What else?
I think that's all my questions, man. I'm going through my spreadsheet.
Plenty.
I think I got it. Yeah, I think I got it.
I mean, it's good stuff. Like we just
I'm sorry,
run. No, go ahead. We're just a reflection. Like we have gone through most of the surface area of this thing in one call. So like it's dope. Like this has been rad. I wasn't ready for it. Like my brain had to warm up.
Good. Then I'm glad I did this. I'm glad because
it's good.
I hate coming in late and it's like, that's like rerun that. But so I mean, I guess this is more just I need to get more familiar with like wallets and stuff. But what do we know about the user when they connect their wallet? Is there anything? Is it literally just for all intents and purposes just a UID, or is there something about like we can
an optional ENS name that they might have set?
What is that
like
again?
The ENS, which is like essentially the domain name of Ethereum, which is I have like John Bow.
Oh yeah, sorry.
Essentially that
Ethereum,
and then whatever they have in their wallet, which is just like any other tokens they've interacted with. But we
see those.
We see
it's public.
There's no programmatic way of like we're not making the deductions for that yet at all.
But we're not actively like scanning everyone's stuff, but the idea that those can be interactive at some point are
that's what would enable. It's not something like token gating. So if you show up to this Prompty, it's like, oh, have you participated in this other Prompty before? Okay, then you can participate in this one, something like that.
Right, and that's the thing Kristen was talking about is like rewards and tracking. Yeah, okay, cool, got it.
Yep.
It would also be very easy to do like only people with an ENS name can respond to the Prompty. Something like that would be like pretty trivial.
Yeah. And then there's enough friction in that like most people are not going to spend the money, but who knows?
Yeah, like the making spam bots would be harder that way already by a degree. Also prevents like some real users potentially. But
however, I also think that there's channels that like, so you kind of say, oh, if you don't have an ENS, go through this process and we'll sort of like make sure that you can interact as well. It's like, it doesn't only have to be one gate. That's like, no ENS, you're banned forever. I think there's always like, especially with community.
It could just be harder. It could just be slightly harder or something, right?
Yeah. Yep. And I guess like, to me, this is like the modular nature of the system. Like potentially like if you know, basically like if you know the right like areas where you can be like, delegate that out to someone else. Like we might have our own defaults, but you could also have a thing that's like delegate to someone else, like access control or blah, 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 like delegate some aspect of sending a prompt to someone else. And it just points to another contract and calls a function in that contract. And like, that's what happens. Like, that's also totally like possible and viable and a like reasonable entry point for a lot of these things. Like instantiations of a Prompty environment, basically, would be kind of like what it is. Like we talked about this with the internet camera. It's like probably some similar things there as well. And even for creating a prompt, like it could be something like that as well. As like it starts off very basic, like as basic as you can get, and you can add modules, which is like, do you want to limit the number of words? Do you blah blah blah? It's like
you pick and choose
literally just
properties.
take a text block. Yeah.
The whole thing is a toolkit for prompt building. Like
and that's you can add media or something too, right? You could actually just
all of this, right? Yeah. So like it's in the same way that you're like form builders, right?
Yeah.
Like it's another type of interface that's like that. And then there are probably like, these are the blocks again. So yeah, like there are probably infinite number of like modules that can plug into like a prompt system, but most of the kinds of things that you want to do will be expressed within like, I don't know, 100, who knows, like whatever, there's probably some number of these things. Yeah, and this does tie into blocks somehow, like, because these things are media types that are being requested, you know? So yeah.
I just found a place on your Fig Jam I didn't see. I found undiscovered territory that I didn't get to. So I was going back looking through it, and I'm like, oh, I missed this.
It's the off the edge of the map. There's another one too that we were doing UI stuff with. Where is that? Yeah, here. Oh, I don't know if this is closed. We'll find out.
We had another one.
Yeah, this is from the design firm, the open purpose one. I don't know. I can't give you editability.
Yeah. Yep.
That's what I'm looking at. The box with open purposes, whatever.
Yeah, Dave just dropped a link in the chat. This is like designer exploration stuff.
Yeah, there's 2 pages. The latest has nothing in it, and then a bunch of stuff in the others. This was just sort of design explorations.
Oh, cool. Oh, this is fun.
So, yeah. So at some point, we have Farzad and open purpose. Like, I mean, I don't know what, depending on their bandwidth or whatever, there's a bunch of product designers over there, and there's stuff we can play with, like iterations and different styles and all these kinds of things, ways of looking at clients. Yeah, I basically yanked from some of this stuff and then just did like a boiled down version in HTML. Sure do generate a lot of stuff.
This is awesome. I'm having a blast.
Farzad was also very enamored with having it feel like my work for something. So there's a lot of that in there.
You did Ponder, right? That looks like 100% Dave Guam.
Yeah, I need to send you a breakdown video of what's happening in there, because there's a lot of group patterns that I think we're going to end up pulling from. I don't know how novel they are, but you can maybe download some of that thing. I mean, you're going to run into this stuff anyway. I have a walkthrough.
The prompt spaces are.
What's up?
I said the prompt spaces are going to be important.
Totally.
I was just like re-looking at everything.
Oh, there's a ton down here I didn't see.
Yeah.
Oh, this is cool. I didn't see it. This is awesome.
Yeah, I think mostly this is done by a dude named Philip. But yeah, we sort of banged it out over a couple sessions. But I mean, mostly we have all this expressed, like it's in the app. So I don't think that there's anything in here that we haven't. Yeah, just stylistic.
I like the prompts as an object. It's cool.
Yeah.
So when I see like the Farzad dot, is it Farzad or Farzad?
Yeah, Farzad.
Thank you. When I see Farzad.eth and I see the avatar circle, is that circle from the wallet, or is that internal to the surface, or is that just not? It's just a placeholder, not even.
I mean, I think they don't they have like a standard now for avatars and stuff?
Yeah,
but yeah.
Do, but Rainbow is pushing their own simultaneously, and it's kind of confusing. The conflict.
It's everywhere right now.
Okay. Okay.
So,
but probably something you can expect on some level.
This is a thing. Like if we end up with an environment and there isn't a current standard to support, then we'll probably end up tossing in our own avatar manager thingy. But if there is something, ideally we piggyback on that. Yeah, I haven't been keeping up with it as much.
Cool. There's a bunch of
all
like
these
generative stuff by default too that you can throw in there.
Yeah.
I mean, it does seem interesting. The wallet should it does start to feel like it's an identity, right? It almost feels like a good place to have a floating profile, but I'm sure it's not architected for that.
I mean, people are building it. So there's what is it? Lens protocol. There's a bunch of like social graph and profile protocol stuff. Cause in the same way that the big companies want to own your identity, because then they get a bunch of access and yada yada yada.
Oh.
I don't know what the prevailing logic on this is. Is it like, should we what is it? Yeah, this is a whole philosophical conversation about profiles. So
it's the weirdest thing for me to try. It's something I don't know how to intuitively think about in this space. So I mean, it's really interesting.
This thing is like an extension of like the work I was doing with Carbon Made stuff, because it's like showcasing a version of yourself publicly, right?
Yeah.
For interaction within a broader sphere, right? And so like profiles as a necessary component for being extant online. Like you like as an individual at least, or as
Corporal.
an identity, or as yeah, exactly. So what should that be? Like what purpose does that serve within smaller group dynamics, right? Like I think this is more of a safe place to play with these kinds of things, right? Which is ultimately where I think that, so you have a Dunbar number, and then within that like environment, you have like the necessity for building some, profile, and then maybe that gives you lateral movement across other types of environments, right? Like, but how does the profile management work? Like people, how much like, pruning are you going to need to do? Is it a full-time job? Like, all these kinds of things. So yeah. For now, in the prompt system, the one thing that we haven't talked about is that like we get profiles immediately. Like, so CJ and I like mapped some amount of the like up into the profile system, right? Because the second you have the wallet and you have prompts associated with the wallet, we have that like one, here are the prompts that you've made, and here are the responses that you've like given. Like that's the simplest form of the thing, like off the top of my head, right? Like, but there's all kinds of curation you could do there. Like it is a snapshot of your participation across the Prompty system. Yes, Jordan.
Okay. Actually, I think this is a question for CJ. Yeah. Is a response a prompt related to a prompt, or is a response a property of a prompt? Like, is it contained in the prompt, or is it a prompt that's linked to another? Weird question.
This is like a good question. I think it's actually kind of up in the air at the moment.
Oh, okay.
The implementation right now is more like
doesn't matter,
tied directly to the prompt, but it actually need not be, if that makes sense. Like,
yeah, no, it totally does.
Theoretically,
it could be either way. I'm just curious where you're heading. Yeah.
Like personally, like how I would like to move it is you could have written something like days before the prompt was even written and respond to it post hoc that way. Like, if that makes sense, like you're just like, oh, I wrote this thing that actually fits this prompt very nicely. Like, boom.
Or a response I want to promote to a standalone prompt, right? I did a response that's killer, and now I want to, okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you.
Like I think both of those things should be very possible. In the current instantiation of it, it's not quite like that, but I think it's like a possibility, and like I kind of have a methodology of like probably how that works generally. Like maybe not exactly, but like close, getting close.
Okay. Cool.
So it also depends on like how we feel the system is. Like I feel like leaving it as open and modular and small pieces is like kind of the general direction that I like to go, and then like how that comes into the front end is like kind of like up for our interpretation. But leaving doors open, I think, is nice.
I was gonna say I could see that what's best. Like I framed it as kind of this or that, but really it could be dependent on what game or style that's being used. So definitely see where you're going there. Yeah, cool, got it.
Yeah, so I'm trying to think about it as like the most like fluid thing, and then like the instantiation of it can kind of arise from whatever form it takes. It's a little less form heavy.
Yeah, cool.
in the basis of it.
I mean, it's cool. You can do that too. Like you can leave them kind of in a quantum state and reassemble. Like that's fine.
This is like part of the nature of the material. Like, so you have different papers, and different papers do different things. And if this paper like allows for these recombinations, and then like you can view them however you need to. And if some of them need to be hierarchical, or some of them need to be laterally related, or whatever, like you get some of it. This is, I don't know. That gives you more range in the clients, I guess. So yeah. Which types, this is the modules, right? Like some of these are just going to be really useful. And like, obviously they harden around the thing, and then they become like a sort of primitive that shows up everywhere. Like text inputs came from somewhere, right?
Yeah, no, totally.
So what do we do next?
Just wondering.
Well, I mean, it's like dog fooding, right? We need to.
Yep.
Yeah.
That'd be good.
I don't like that phrase. Whatever. Let's just test it.
Good enough for dogs.
Dude, my dogs eat great. My dogs eat awesome. I don't think like that.
That's the
Besides,
thing. You're making awesome
food,
shit. Tasty.
Dog food is a neoliberal invention. There's no such thing. Dogs ate leftovers. They're scavengers. The idea there's a type of food is a construction. I reject the term.
We saw literal evidence of this morning because there's like a pack of 10 chihuahuas that live behind our house, and we in
There's a lot.
in the yard behind tiny chihuahuas.
I love them.
4 of them are big enough to get through the fence underneath, and then there is a compost heap in our backyard, and they go into the compost heap and feast.
They're eating like chicken eggshells. They're digging things out of the like earth and eating. I'm like, what are you
Hell yeah.
finding?
They're being awesome. That's so cool.
They're really
Lucky.
sweet. They're so cute.
I
And then they
love
play
dogs. I shouldn't,
chase.
but I do.
They play chase games. It's really funny. They're just checking it all out, hanging out.
That's fun.
Do we want to come up or explore like a new form of Prompty? Another form that we've done is like a design fiction, speculative fiction, like imagine a future with like wherein this is true, like what is it like? We could do one of those because those are fun, or we could play with a totally new form. We'd have to make it up.
Have you guys tried like didn't Tom what used to do where you do a part of the story, you pass it on?
Someone starts a story, we all like give our own ending.
Yeah, or like, and then someone does the next section or chapter, and someone does another chapter or section. Like we used to do that in art class. Someone draw a corner and pass it down. Someone draws, like that. I mean, God, I just described exquisite land.
Yeah, I think that there is a form version of that. This one, like, so the only thing we have with Prompty right now is the one mechanic we have is a participation gate. Like there is a prompter, and then you have a response field, and like you don't get to see what everybody else said until, right? So that's that's the game logic, right? So in that sense it could be
I mean, you could still have everybody come up with like, so like the prompt is 4 chihuahuas come into your backyard through a hole in the fence.
What happens next?
Yeah, what happens next? And everyone gets to decide. Yeah.
It's a multiverse tool rather than a chain tool, right? So we are outputting individual multiverses, and then you get to compare like we did a bit of this today, like you came in and showed off your process, right? And then we were able to think through that process. Now that's an addition to the brain, right? So like this thing is sort of modeling the different brains that are out there, and like what they're unbiased to the degree that that's possible flavor is, right?
Or you set the bias in your prompt in a way, consciously. That's not a bad way. That's a good way.
Constraining it, right?
Yeah,
like there is a problem space that you're all playing in, and then but seeing other people, like I immediately, like I just had to introduce myself in a Slack, and I went and read, I'm like, what's the social norm here? Like and then like so that my response can fit or not fit in whatever way made sense, right? Here you just off the dome, good faith that everybody else is going to answer as honestly as possible, right? So like what is the character of the response given that environment? So in the case of like an article or an issue or something like this, like I wonder what everybody else thinks, and it's always surprising. So yeah, but I don't know if there's any other forms like that. The story form is interesting. Like here is a scenario, write something that fills out the rest of the scenario. All of this shit is machine learning things too. All of the patterns, like just go steal them from that. Like there's probably game modes from all of these things, but yeah.
Another kind of interesting thing, I could see like an advice tool. Like, what should I do? And like everyone submits advice, and then
Yes.
you don't see, then the person says which one they did at the end. I don't know, there's something interesting there too. Because I'm curious cat was hot shit on Twitter for a minute, and I thought that was kind of fascinating.
See,
this would make our relationship advice a lot more useful, I think, if they had some participation gating of some sort. Because currently it's like top comment is going to be the top comment. It's just like the second somebody gets their in, that's it. Dude. So, stuff for like more intimate questions, more like actually like things involving thought. Like there's the internet spaces for this are not great.
Yeah.
Right. Do we want to play with an advice form? Is there something here? Like, is there like, does anybody need advice and want to get it through Prompty? I mean, this is where we're at with this. So
oh yeah.
All right. I put some questions in
there.
Sure. Like how do you what is life?
No, I got one.
What is life? 300 characters.
Yeah.
250 to 300.
I'm like
a minimum. Minimum
essential right now.
What's yours, Jordan?
No, I was gonna say I was really gonna ask you guys. I'm trying to learn to React. Like what are good small projects to ease into it, right? Like what's a good small, I don't know, because when you go to try to learn a lot of stuff, everything is just like I've been trying to design a house, and every time I go to get a new book to read about, because I'm stuck on a problem, the first 80 pages are, so you decided to buy a house. What's a house? A house has a shelter. And it's like every book has to do this,
Yeah.
So
minimum page requirement.
Yeah, or it's just like they have to assume the default no one knows anything because every single book is contextually nothing. And so it's like I'm at a point, like maybe I didn't care in my 20s, but now I'm like 40. I'm just like, dude, I do not have time for intros. So it's like when I go to learn, I'm really mad about how paralyzed I am by all these different things to learn. They all have anyway. So going back to my prompt,
I feel the same way. I have this exact problem. I fucking hate reading these things. I'm like, God damn it, just let me do the thing.
Yeah, and so I guess my prompt would be, I'm going to React. What would be a cool first project, right? Like, I don't know, is it a to-do list? Is it just what? And also do I learn Svelte? Do I learn Next? Do I you know what I mean? I guess my prompt would be, what is the minimum good dive in and the other part of it is, which is interesting too, and that is, I'm probably not going to be doing a lot of hardcore database stuff, so there's a ton of stuff I don't need there too. So I'm just making you guys solve my problems now.
That's a good advice. I also think Arthur have a good response for that. That's a reasonable one. Much better than my response is get an Arthur. That's yeah.
This might not be a good audience for this prompt. It's just a question for Arthur.
Yeah.
I mean, I think obviously we can dog food that. We can just toss it in there and then send it to everybody. There you go. That's how it works, right?
I'll write that thing up.
Drop that in Jeff. I wonder if people would just do it without any demoing. They just feel like, here's the answer.
I think people would love that question. Like if you ask that question and we put it out to Def, I think a lot of people would respond to that.
Wait, my React question?
Yeah.
So you're saying is trick them into testing our product by being like, yo, I'm a dumbass designer. Help me figure out my first React project. P.S. use this link. And then, oh, dude, that's sick, CG. I like it.
And they'll all use the blockchain. They all know how. And it's like, if you need Rinkeby, just ping someone, or literally just so just drop your wallet address and someone will send you Rinkeby.
It's kind of wild.
Whatever.
It's kind of wild. I like it, man. I'm not scared.
All right. So
I think that's great, actually.
So we're still back to before we send it to Def, we should probably test it a couple times ourselves to make sure that the basic UI makes sense.
Yeah. So John had a couple questions he was thinking about.
Oh, yeah.
You lit up a little bit. Yeah, for advice.
In the sense that I think it could be an interesting thing to over the next day or two or three. We just put in 1 or 2 prompts each and keep very open form and just play with the form and see what comes up.
Yeah.
Instead of trying to figure around one, we just really start sending things through here.
I'll come with a few. Yeah. I like the idea, John. Should anyone who wants to come with some today and like sync up in the morning or tonight or something? Like have a.
Well, I guess we can just
dump it into a prompt.
I think so.
Drop the link. Dump it into a prompt.
Yeah,
drop
just
the
use
link.
Prompty. Yeah.
and then drop the link in Discord, I guess, or wherever we want to go. Or I don't know.
Discord's probably good
Yeah.
for now.
Discord
Yep.
for now, I think is okay.
So the prompt is, what are some good ideas for prompts for the demo? And the responses are, I love it.
That's
We did
cool.
it. We did it.
I mean,
Close
method
the loop.
prompts
We
are
did it.
very much a thing here.
Yeah, just fair warning, I did check the code. You can only respond once.
Okay.
So you have to come up with a few and put it in one response. Otherwise, it'll not be happy with you.
Okay, got it. And you can't delete and submit
Or make a
new
new wallet.
Or make a new wallet.
Okay, hold on. This goes
Yeah.
back to my spreadsheet. I'm sorry, I'm derailing again. Can you delete a response? No.
No.
I can
I don't think
check.
so.
I don't think so.
Can a user?
For our dog fooding, it doesn't have to be about the demo though, right?
No.
We can add those.
We
I
just
think
do
it's
whatever.
open. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Is
we
that a
just
future
toss
feature
pro-
though, where you responded to a prompt and like, oh shit, I want to go delete it? That's something
I
we're gonna
think
do, right?
so, or at least
Yeah,
some
we can
editing.
probably.
it.
Yeah, that's
Response.
totally. It's totally possible. I kind of already have like a data schema that's like totally appropriate for that. So, and it's like kind of testy. So.
And you can and you can kill a prompt even though it's set to be alive for whatever how many days. You can still go in there and just make it. Eventually, at some point. That's the point.
Eventually, yeah.
Okay, it's possible.
Currently, it's a
yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Currently, it's a one-way street.
Yeah. Right now it's just C. There's no create, update, and delete.
That's fine. I mean that makes sense for where it's at. I totally get that. I'm trying to understand if it's possible. Like
Yeah.
yeah,
Totally possible.
All right. I think I'm really done this time.
Yeah. Okay. So I guess the
Make prompts.
feedback loop here is make prompts, put prompts in that you want into the system now, and then assume that everybody will go look over the next few days.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
I like it.
We still need to figure out notifications someday. This is
Yeah,
a big
that
one.
one-
Thank you for saying
one-
it. Keep them coming, man.
Yeah.
Notifications is going to be like big blockchain problems, generally
Yeah.
speaking.
We send everybody an air horn that we put in their house and a Raspberry Pi that takes in.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Perfect. Fully
How is-
decentralized.
How would you even do? You have to check for
Yeah.
notifications, which means they can't be notifications.
It's a whole-
like.
It's
No.
a mess.
Yeah, you do. I guess like to me, this starts going into the wallet as operating system territory because
Yeah.
really every transaction that's happening and interacting with your wallet is a notification itself. Like at the
Right.
very bare level, but no one's like looking at Etherscan like, ooh, 4 transactions came in. Like
So some people
Yeah.
are, but
well,
they're
some
not-
people
they're
are,
not the
but
regular.
like that's like some esoteric shit. So like
Yeah.
it just has to be brought down to a human level, and like no one I think right now is doing the wallet any kind of justice because it's really not a wallet. It's like it's more like a login. It's a login into a like distributed computer. Like it's as if we're going back in time to like
Single mainframe?
time sharing type computers. And we moved away from time sharing computers because they realized that this problem is basically really hard and it's not scalable in 80s and 70s and 80s technology. So we gave everyone a computer, and now
Right.
we're like building a shared computer again. So it kind of came full circle.
That's awesome.
Unbundling.
And yeah, I think once people kind of realize like, oh, I'm logging into a computer that everyone else is also using, like the perspective is a little different than like people are sending me money and I have these things in my wallet which is attached to nothingness.
I use
So
it
this
now.
is kind of odd.
Yeah.
Like this is like kind of odd and like it's not connected to reality in any way.
Yeah.
Whereas like I think like connecting it back to reality, like wallet is connected to some kind of reality, but it's a very like limited space, and like really like this thing is capable of so much more than like what your wallet is capable of. So it's kind of silly as like a terminology. I think it's
That's
like
such a
very
good-
like narrow.
You make such a good point though that like all the layers of software and UI abstractions you've learned to deal with like centralized servers, suddenly when you swap it out with Ether, they suck shit. Like none of this stuff, like using well, not for Coinbase and not for like, this is not at all how this shit is supposed to work. That's why it sucks. The clients and the stack downstream is why everything sucks.
So this is the UX problem. It's not like
I don't know where to put a button. I finally got it.
Yeah. This is the UX stuff. The UX right now is really terrible, but there's some like really interesting patterns underlying it that can, if they can be expressed well, then the thing will make sense. Yeah. But the thing right now is so unintelligible because you have like a bunch of like real deep tech people trying to deal with it.
It's being crammed into it's like being crammed in the wrong container, right? It's like shoving a square peg around.
Yeah, it's like putting a combustion engine inside a horse. The whole thing's a fucking mess.
Yeah, it might work, but no one's gonna go back to it.
Yeah,
and that's how it feels too. Yeah, like this is terrible.
Yeah, that's good.
The gasser is it turd. You can't tell. Yeah. So the best way to run into a lot of this stuff that I found so far is try to build UI for it. Like, given the environment that we have now, like when we do exquisite land, there's these consistent patterns that show up about transactions and notifications and these kinds of things. And it's very clear that the environment is wrong, right? Because it hurts every time. You're just like cramming stuff in there. Yeah. It works. People can kind of get it, right? But everybody is rebuilding the same experience over and over again because they have to, because there is no top level architecture. Yeah. So, and you can't count on like MetaMask being like you can't write to it in a way that makes any kind of sense. You know, you just get like sort of generic messages about transactions that went from here to there in quantitative terms. So like, you know, and some people are playing with this like context, I think
like inferring stuff.
They are creating like a different view on Etherscan, right? Like a more a GUI version of Etherscan. If the transaction information is like your terminal, then you know so a lot of work to do.
Yeah, they're legibilizing Etherscan for average people.
Yep. And like the mechanisms that I guess their audience cares about is like what celebrity bought, you know, a Bored Ape or whatever.
Bored Ape.
Like I'm sure. Yeah.
Oh, they can get you can see on the Etherscan. You can actually. Oh yeah, you can see the wallet, right?
So you can see everything
on Etherscan. You can just see a bunch of like transaction hashes, and if you go click the transaction hash, you could be like, oh, they sent money to Dom, or like Dom bought whatever, or like, you know, whatever. But context is like, okay, here's everything that you probably actually care about from their wallet, rather than like having to click a bunch of buttons and like hope to God you click the right thing, whatever.
Which is some of it is transparency into movement of assets, right? Like that people without like sort of intelligence training and cryptography training can like get at, right? And so I mean, basically, right? Like, you know, doing data mining and stuff
smart
like this.
School.
Exactly.
Nerd smart junk. School.
Mm-hmm. So anyways, there's a whole slew of this stuff, right? This is, I think, the stuff that needs work. And is there like a platform or something like this that like, you know, sort of something that looks more like a web browser? Right? Like in the sense that you had all of this data out there, you had all of these kinds of things, and then like Merck and Andreessen comes along or whoever it was. And
it's like the Netscape. Yeah.
So maybe
you,
that's
sorry,
one of these.
I just realized that like one of the main problems that I have right now could totally be solved by making a browser, which is really stupid. But also like what I realized just now was we're hacking these Chrome extensions into browsers and hoping that they're like secure and private, and like it's actually probably really bad in terms of privacy. But if you had a web browser that's directly like getting your private key from the trusted platform module or the secure enclave on your device, then you have an end-to-end like hardware security solution built into your device that is also like authenticating you everywhere, which makes a lot more sense than like, that's basically what I'm doing for the iPhone with the thing that I'm building. And I wasn't sure how to extend it to the desktop, and I just figured out how to extend it to the desktop through building a web browser, which is really shitty, but it actually isn't that hard to take the source code from Chrome and like build this in.
Kind of starts to feel like the browser's the wrong model for this too. The browser's for a different world.
It probably is.
Yeah.
Probably is.
I mean, a browser, but not the current one, right? There's probably a browser that I imagine it doesn't have the same URL bar and back and forward buttons. It's probably something fully different.
I don't think so. No, I bet it acts a lot more like a native computing environment than it does like a web browser in a lot of ways. It should feel more like a native. You're like bridging the web onto the native environment in a way.
And now we've hit relational OS.
Yeah.
Oh, shit,
Welcome.
Dave.
We just speed ran the whole one conversation.
That was cool.
That's why you need blocks.
Yeah, so like you're in it. So what are all the, and Gordon Brander, I think, is a bunch of people are pushing down this road, right? I think that they have a lot more technical understanding of it than I do. I mean, CJ obviously does, but yeah.
Is there anything Jordan should read or watch from Gordon?
All of it.
Maybe link them up.
Like he just did a thing on like every single, what is it? I think I sent it to you before. What was it? What is this thing? Oh, subconscious.
Oh, the Substack?
Yeah.
Yeah, you sent me this. It's in my bookmarks from you. Yeah.
Yeah, like I don't know, like today he did a thing on digital identity stuff. Similar to just a deeper dive on what we were just talking about. Protocols and how they stick together. Like, you know, he's worked on a few browsers, I think, like at Mozilla, maybe I don't know if he was at Google. I think he did a VR browser for Mozilla or something like this. So, and he has like a few pieces on how difficult creating browsers are, like, especially given where everything is now. So yeah, like the browsing engines, I don't know, like, you know, is there a possibility to like create I mean, this is what Urbit's doing, right? They're like, here's a base level system, and then here's a bunch of architecture that you can do computing type things. Is there a comms version of this, right? Like,
well, yeah. I mean, like Urbit's premise is that you're the server. Like, I am the data, and the services like flow from me, and so I control the flow out, whatever, like that.
Yes.
But I mean, maybe that's just I don't know. Like I think what I hear you describing though is that it's that, you know, man. I mean, I'm just
we're the computer.
Well, it's that like there's no, like you said, there's not one computer for Twitter, there's not one computer for Facebook. No. I know I'm simplifying, but the fact is, it, you know, like these things are all living above it all. So once it's all above it all, then like it's not a vertical problem the way the browser was. It's going to be a horizontal problem. So it has to be blocks. Like the browser's a document reader.
That's good.
What we're talking about is a like it's an aggregator of modules, right? Which is different from a hyperlink document. It's because I think, like, isn't the premise that when I go to explore the data in this pool, I'll assemble a different way to explore than you will, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'll interact with it in a different way than you will. I might express myself more through drawing. You might express yourself more. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm getting too far into space now, but.
I mean, this is, we landed on these places. It's like, it's multi-perspectival, right? Mm-hmm. And the perspectives are views and the views are queries, right? So like, and you can combine any number of views, you can trade the views. Like you could take the first person perspective of CJ on some like view of the larger data set, and then that would give you a perspective from him, right? Like there,
you could also take that same data set and transform it into Dave's perspective on that data set or whatever, like, and wherever there is overlap potentially, or like whatever it looks like.
Yeah.
And then that data can also be in my module. I'm looking at that data in a spreadsheet. Someone else is looking at it as a line graph like that. Okay. Yes. Okay.
So like Aslan has been doing like the concept art version of this thing. Yeah. Here. Probably pinned.
Okay, we haven't talked about this stuff in a while.
Yeah. Coming. Well, we got new blood.
It comes right back.
This is like my favorite stuff personally.
Yeah. Like, this is the big work.
I'm tempted to show you what I was working on out before I left, because this was the tension that I couldn't stay there any longer, is the integrated versus modular software approach. And I believe in them both, but I believe in them deeply for the right reasons when you use them. And this is one of the biggest problems having in the services is like, anyway, I already know what I'm gonna say, but it's just like modularity, it's like a completely different attitude, and like you can't, anyway. I believe in it.
I think both, like you said, I think both seem very important, because like,
depending on what you're doing.
Yeah, like it's nice to have integration, but it's also very nice to leave things open for other people to like tweak a little piece of it. Like you can build a great end-to-end experience that's like great for 90% of people or 95% of people, but like, what about the other 5% of people who want to explore this little piece and try to make it better, and then have the end up with the full end-to-end integrated experience, but with a tweak that makes it very different in some way. I think that's very important in some ways.
I think you're totally right, and I think we've already been doing it. Anyone who like it's already happening. It's just it's like the difference is you have to write code, right? And we're trying to get a place where you don't have to write code, but you're just like right now, anyone can kind of do stuff we're talking about, but it's just the barrier is so much, right? So it's not we're not even trying to fuck with the world. We're just trying to pull that bar up enough to pull more people into the assembly world, right? That's the right way to. Okay, got it. Okay, cool. Okay, I got it now. I'm on the page.
Yeah,
I think the code will still be written, but making it easy for people to.
So the integration is still will still be happening in code, but it's not going to go all the way to the product. It's going to stop at a point where people can then get creative. Yeah. Okay. Damn.
A lot of aspirations.
Yeah, and I mean, there are a bunch of people. There are tons of people out there working on this stuff. I think, like, part of what we need to do is run into more of them.
Yeah,
and like collaborate with them, or be in like a place where we are actively working on projects that are resourced, so that like when they are released and practiced and played with or whatever, people who are thinking like this have a chance to like run into them and be like, hey, I want to also do that, or I am also doing this, right? It's just being in the conversation by building, like by participating.
Yeah, I gotta tell you, I'm really interested in seeing how other people, like you said, they're approaching some of the things, but what trade-offs they make that we don't. Like, I'm super interested in that. Like, what are the trade-offs you made that we didn't? What are the material or cultural reasons why? I'm super interested in that. Damn.
So there's room to bring people together to talk about these things and record it and share it, right? That's part of the practice of the stuff that we're doing.
Yeah.
Like, and then how do you manage all of that media and like, how do you look through it? How do you find what you need to find so that like you don't have to read an intro to everything, right? Like, so it's partially pointing.
You can start
that,
where
right?
your context is
what
now.
you want. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Oh God. Oh shit, Dave, you just fucked me up. You're saying
that's what
no,
this
hold on,
does all
hold
the
on,
time.
hold on. Let me walk through this. You just really fucked me up. So what we're saying here is now Jordan goes to open the React book, but this React book has enough. I provide context. It's going to skip the shit I already know. It's not going to show me. It's not going to show me the database stuff. It's going to show me how to move pick. Oh God, and it's all in just a giant soup. So it doesn't matter. So you can just, it can be, oh shit, dude. You can swap out.
There's infinite entry points into it in some way, rather than, or many more. There's still finite entry points, but there's so many more entry points that you can get much closer to what you're looking for immediately, hopefully.
It's like internet was assembled. It's like internet is hyperlinked documents. This is like contextually assembled documents.
Yeah.
Or
Relational.
whatever you call a page, whatever you call the object, right?
Yeah. Like the information is in the relationships, which right, and the relationships provide context, and if you know the context, you can problem space the thing. So you get it's wayfinding, sense making, these kinds of things, which we do as people all the time. So like it's a push pull on the tech and what we do and how much that affords us seeing parts of the world and how we see the world, right? Like the current way of seeing the world through our technology, I feel uncomfortable in it all the time because I know how much more it could do, right? But this is
and you hit the limitations that you don't need to be there. Like I think one of the largest frustrations I've had being a UI designer is that the best UI is not limited by, I used to think it was engineers or my talent. It's no, the limitation of the best UI is usually the business model, right? It comes down to how the thing has to exist. Like how the thing has to keep itself alive will make so many decisions. And like changing that space, like frees up so much. Like it's like, I don't know. Like my brain is now freaking out that it doesn't have to like resolve there, right?
There are new medias to play with that, right? But there aren't a lot of patterns to pull from yet, which means that you're doing a lot of startup work, which here's the problem, like how do we fund the work to find the new patterns, right? And like if you're lucky you stumble into one, but like being first isn't great usually, like optimizing a pattern that's already there. So like a little bit of what we're doing is like how do we keep the research alive, like by like finding patterns and participating in building things, right? And then some of those things can potentially fund the rest of this stuff. This is like the model of a research lab, right? Like or some of them anyway. Like so we've talked a lot about that and like trying to square this. Is there fundraising? And is that fundraising in alignment with the kind of thing that we're building? You know, like this is basically the open question that we have now. And like, we're basically probably going to use Prompty to try and narrow down on what we value and then how we can find resources and, well, a few things. Who is willing to dedicate time to pursuing this thing, right? How much of that time is available? And in what measure, so that we can combine it to continue like practicing. And then how can we resource that time so that as much of it wants to be like sort of devoted to playing with this stuff, it can, right? So, and in that discussion, like how can we make sure that the resource that's coming in is pegged to the value system that will grow the rest of the product, whatever that product is, all of the whole sphere of the thing, right? So anyways, this is like how we have been talking about pursuing this thing as like an endeavor, like not a business, not a company, not, you know, like whatever the hell this thing is, right? Like but it still has material needs. Like we can't do this thing for fun. Like it will just starve. It won't work. So yeah.
And also you also need the pressure so it's good. Unlimited money makes shit. So yeah.
That's the thing. Like, you know, so the right money in an amount that keeps us moving and the work is fun. Like, like a certain type of fun that produces like innovations and, you know, and just keep like the game is continuing to play together in ways that are more and more artful. Like, because a bit of how I believe the patterns that will be useful to other people come out are in like a role-playing endeavor. Like we're like, hey, we don't know how this is. We're just going to throw our bodies at it. Like it goes like this. And then that's a pattern that is repeatable and then usable. And I mean, this is what I think the bare bones UI or experience design stuff is. Like somebody embodies it and then gets it out into an artifact. So we're doing that as a group. I think that's one.
Yeah, no, I get it.
Good.
I got a lot to process, dude. That's a lot to process.
Yeah, sorry.
No, like it sucks because I probably should have staged out a little, but once those connections start hitting, man, it's just the dominoes fall, and then you're like, oh my god, everything's wrong right now. Everything I'm doing, everything I touch is wrong. How can I live in this world? That's where you put me, Dave. You fucked up. Now I'm unhappy. Now all this stuff sucks.
This is
knock the bookshelf over.
Mm-hmm.
Like
I'm just happy to have somebody else in the problem with me,
dude.
This is welcome to the virus.
Yeah,
the more people is more helpful.
I can already feel my brain just being like, oh yeah, dude, here we go. Like,
I mean, so this is
focus on my. It's
a bear of a
so
problem.
Big. It's so big though.
It's huge.
So pick a primitive like Prompty.
Yeah,
That's it. We're just touching pieces of the elephant.
Also,
that's right, dude. That's right.
Also, just so you know, I'll get your email that you like to use for calendaring. We meet weekly to just like hang out, and we don't do work stuff. Like we kind of do, but we talk about all kinds of shit. Like,
cool.
It's just because this stuff is
I can
heavy.
just talk about the weird shit I read all week.
Yeah, basically.
Okay.
Exactly.
People are talking about
Okay.
and relationships
so sick of this shit.
and psychedelics and just I don't know what shit that comes up.
Anything that comes to mind, basically.
Cool. I got it.
Because it's all relative, but because we can't focus on the problem the whole time. We also need to know where people are coming from. Like, why are you thinking about it that way? And then it's like, oh, because that person's been doing a bunch of acid and reading, I don't know, like Heidegger, and you're just like, what? Yeah. So that you get sort of like where they came from.
I appreciate that, Kristen, because it's really true. I think there's been so much assumes like everything can be done in like a neutral state, and it's like everyone just needs to get rid of that shit and just accept it. Like I need to like, oh, the source bias. It's like be an adult. Like who cares? You know what I mean? Like I like the idea. It's like embracing. No, I have a bias has weird influences. Let's celebrate them, man. I think that's cool. Yeah, that's a great way to develop.
This is why I'm thinking about it.
I mean, it's like we are trying to cultivate like a shared brain on some things, right? And seeing what sort of emerges from that. And like there's like it's fun. That's the ideal case, right? But like in part of that, like this is why the work that we did, like Carbon Made and stuff, was very fun. Like a lot of it was like the social norms for thinking about and playing with the kinds of things that we wanted to play with, right? Like what kind of state are you warmed up into, and what level of vulnerability are you capable of like accessing, like as a group, because you're developing a friendship. Like this is the whole point. Like it's relating to each other, right? And then understanding, and then part of that group brain dynamic. And this is true of like it's less true of corporate structures. Maybe you can eke it out, right? But again, I haven't been in too many of them, but most of the time it's rare that they're healthy in a sense that they're taking care of all of you, right?
Oh like, God, dude. No, don't even pretend. Like, no, I mean, that's the contrast I was trying to tell you, Dave, is that it's purposely squeezed out. You are, I mean, and I don't want to sound dramatic. I mean, it's a business. It's not the end of the world. No one's being crushed. But the truth is the process isn't there to squeeze the individual, like what they use. It's just to create the superset, right? Like one of the things I always told everyone who came into Apple, I'd be like, the goal of every process is that no one gets what they want. So you are going to be mad at the end of every delivery because you're not supposed to win. No one's supposed to win. We're all supposed to fight. And like the Venn diagram of what didn't lose in the fight is supposed to be the good feature, right? Oh. Or what you ship. And so, and look,
it makes sense.
I'm making it sound way shittier than it is. It's fine. It's fine. It makes sense. It's fine. But at the end of the day, though, like you don't get this, though, right? And that's what I mean. They don't want. That's not what they're going for. So it's an intentional, like they don't want that stuff. But I don't know. It's like you brought the contrast, and I felt it immediately. And it's very very explicitly clear. But it's also like you can tell like the results are going like the results you want. One is mass appeal. One is refined, polished mass appeal, and one is let's explore the unknown as friends. Grab my hand into the dark forest.
Effectively, right? And then So both of those models are producing overflow, right? Like in the tension crucible, you are getting polish, right? You're getting things that are
trade-offs,
like seamless, right? In the sense, because you're hammering the
but you know
sword
what?
and folding it.
No, but you know what? You don't, because in the day it's still a compromise, right? Because in the day, there's people who don't understand design, taking apart pieces of design. There's people who don't understand code, you know what I mean? So it doesn't though. Like it's refined, but it's not refined in an opinionated direction, I guess. I don't know. That analogy made me realize how fucked up it is, actually. Sorry, keep going.
The opinion is the I mean, this is where you get into the capital structure that drives it.
Yes,
right?
That's how I was going. Right. Yeah.
So and to that end, it is extremely good. Like we all use the things. You were there. So I have like an advantage in the sense that I haven't had to look at too much of the sausage. So I can see the seamlessness, right? And people who don't know how what sausage is at all, they don't even think about it. It's a piece of glass, right?
And I wish you understood how these things are 20% as good as they should have been in the process. You know what I mean? Like the seamlessness is
imagine
fucking night and day. It's like,
so the thing that's being carved off is the ironically diversity of possible experience, right?
Yes,
because
explicitly
the diversity of
single
possible right? So I don't know about solving for that, but I do know that there are different models of growth, like in the natural growing sense, right? Like not in the manufactured largesse sense. And in this case, part of what we're finding is we do critical, hopefully focused and collaborative work towards an end, right? The end is trying to collapse the possible space into something that is interfaceable, because otherwise it's noise. But the methodology for doing that, if it's coming from a place where people wish to be together and they are endeavoring to be in a broader relationship with each other, then the overflow of that process will feed into the first thing, and the byproduct will be something that reflects that process, which means,
Steven Sinofsky, I mean, whatever, I don't like that, but he always said, you ship your org structure. When you look at a project, and when I look at every project I ship, I can see that org. And you see, oh, there's that asshole who didn't, you know what I mean? You can see the conflict. You just said it perfectly, Dave. It's like that quote, but instead you're like, no, you see the humans behind it. And that's why Panic stuff is good, because you see the people, right? Like when you use Panic software, there's a person on the side of that screen.
It feels like a bunch of people sat together and are like, how can we make this for the type of person that we wish to see in the world?
Yeah, right. That's a good example.
And then you use it and you're like, I am one of these people because it's great.
We're friends.
Right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, that's what Shigeru Miyamoto did, right? With Mario. That was his whole, dude, sorry. I'm just losing it now. But yes, I'm so on this page now, dude. Yes.
So trying to work in another environment is just brutalizing now. But it's a push-pull with how I believe that I am confident that this thing outputs experience and product and solution and protocol and all of these kinds of things that are extraordinarily valuable. How to interface with that value is where we're effectively at. Part of it is continuing to operationalize it, make it a better system. The better system will, produce higher quality good, all of these kinds of things. So I don't know, but it's a forever project, right?
Yeah.
What is the scope of the thing? Yeah.
It's the struggle. Yeah. I like it.
So, yeah.
Dude, yeah, man. Well, shit. Let's go sit
this
in my
thing
yard
is going to be
for an hour and
super useful for other people to watch, I think.
Well, I mean, I gotta tell you, the most exciting thing about
I want to rewatch this.
It's seeing people use your tool incorrectly is the most rewarding thing on earth, dude. When people use something you make and use it in ways you didn't think of, right? That's the shit. That's when you know you made something amazing, right? And I feel like this thing is not even close out the door, and it's already you can see us doing it. But the like you said, the spectrum potential is just so wide open.
Yeah,
it's got to throw bodies at it.
Yeah. So there's the actual experiment, and then what we have is an artifact of discussion that we just had, which is and you just prompted us into like explaining a whole slough, like a whole slew of the world that like hadn't been compressed yet. So now
that into it though, just asking about Prompty just was slippery slope right into, hey Jordan, computers are wrong, got to remake the world.
Well, now we don't have to do it again. This is our intro.
Nice to meet you too.
Yeah, you're both in San Diego. You can do this in person.
Yeah, I was like, we need to hang out.
Yeah, no, for sure, man. No, for sure. I do talk to you in person. I got a lot more to ask. Cool.
Great.
All right. Well, Kristen's eating. I'm gonna let you guys go because I don't know if I can keep blowing mine anymore. I mean, I can, but
it's plenty. We covered so much
This
ground.
is more than enough. Yeah.
Yeah, Kim has to deal with me. She's home
Yeah.
today, so now she has to deal with his brain the rest of the day.
Go for a walk.
Go for a walk. Always
Yeah.
after these things.
No,
just move. Embody the damn thing.
Unless you're in
gonna go-
Austin, then
No.
Then good luck.
Dude, it was CJ.
Yoga inside, I
like
guess.
it was so humid like 3 days ago. I went to go
Really?
get coffee and it was so
I wasn't even
humid. I'm like,
here.
oh, okay. I don't know. It was so humid where I am. I'm like, this is Florida shit. I drove to get coffee, which I swore I wouldn't do here.
Dude,
And I
straight
did.
up for this.
Wow, that's crazy.
Humidity. Not built for it. Not built for it.
Well, you survived the one
It's a
day
different
that it was
pace.
humid.
Yeah.
I don't feel bad for you.
Oh no, don't feel bad for me. I know what Austin's like. You guys, man, that is a humid deck and that place is cruel.
It's like living in a mouth.
Yeah, it is.
Same. It's horrible too because the garbage all smells because it's so
Yeah.
hot. So you go walking around and you're just like, I'm gonna hold my breath for this block.
You're like,
I went to New Orleans. Yeah.
or like
Or
New York in
in
August.
Oh yeah, I've never been to New York. I've only been there in winter, so I don't know that, but I believe you.
It's a thing.
It's rough.
Yeah.
Because all the garbage is out on the street. Yeah,
I just forgot that.
I get around.
You do.
Cool. We did good.
Cool.
This
All
was
right,
fun. Unexpected
amazing.
fun. Best.
Yeah.
This is a
And
really
the-
good one. I'm so excited. Sorry.
No, dude. Yeah. I'm a mess. Real quick, Kristen, you're gonna send the link to the prompt for me to fill out.
Send
Who
me
is
your
it?
email address.
Yeah, that's right. You
And
already told me
then-
to send me your email. Yeah, send you
And then
you
you'll-
my email.
I'll add you to a shared calendar so you can just add it to your whatever calendaring. And then I usually will update when we have meetings and like you don't have to come to all of them. You can just see some of them. It'll be like clear.
Cool.
It's just like 3 people meeting. If you're
Mhm.
interested in any of them, just ask. And some of them,
Cool. Yeah.
it might be like, no, it's a small group, but yeah, the prompting thing is I left a little note about what we agreed on for next steps in the Prompty channel.
On Def or in? Oh no,
Discord.
it's
In
Or
relational.
relational.
in. Found it.
We're going to be doing everything in relational from now on, I think,
Okay.
until we figure out where we want to. I think the def thing is too, but we want to present in def and then
It's a little
add
chaotic though.
updates to def. Yeah. But like our
Yeah,
working environment
sharing
is
and-
effectively.
I think sharing in depth and doing, yeah, sharing of all kinds of things and like recruiting probably too for like certain projects. So I don't know what the interface is yet, but the building stuff, there's just not enough, there's too much going on there.
Yeah.
This is cool. Also, I want to say I really enjoy in the most fucked up way, like development, like process stuff too. So this is so fun, like getting to design process with a small group, like on the fly. Like this is cool. Like I'm really excited 'cause I'm obsessed. Like I did some small writing about like just like how you organize, like how organizing people does fundamentally, for like this kind of shit. And it's like, it's such an awesome contrast now to go from like, fascist military software design to like, I don't know, this is like, just like party, hang out with your friends and innovate and shit, it's cool contrast. Like, it's like there's
Beer-bong
stuff to take.
software.
Yeah. It's just like, there's stuff to learn everywhere. And I'm like, it's like, I'm really excited now to like reconnect with like my love of process in a totally different like context and like completely different, like, this is cool.
We're here for it. Process lab.
Yeah, if you have ideas at any point, bring them up.
Yeah, I'm going to. I'll probably, maybe should I run them by you first, Kristen?
Yeah, we can chat,
Okay.
but
Yeah.
whatever's clever. Yeah.
Okay. And I seen John bring up Notion. I'm gonna dust that off because I wanted to get in Notion, but it didn't work with what project I was working on at the time. So now I've been to get that thing done. Do that.
Good energy, Jordan. You're
Cool.
keeping us all alive.
Yep.
Oh, I'm having a blast. Thanks for having me, man. Thanks for rocking my world. I needed that.
Sick. All right.
All right, I'll be in
Next
touch,
time.
guys.
Bye.
Cool.
Bye, everybody.